Hi, I'm Harold Wildeson, and I want to welcome you to This Is My Story.
Love and blessings He'll provide all around the world. When you hear my story, give God the glory.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Varner, and this is my story.
Hello, my name is Jessica Owens, and I am the editor here at This Is My Story. And today, graciously, Harold, our regular host, allowed me to fill his seat because I have a dear friend on our show. Today we have Jeffrey Varner. Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on our show.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
We met, oh my goodness, about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I guess, at a young adult Bible study called SOS, which stood for Song of Solomon. And that's where I met him and his now wife, Heidi, and that's where they fell in love. Jeff, let's start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning?
Yeah, where were you born and how was your life growing up?
Well, I'm going to start with my parents.
Okay.
Okay. My mother and father were high school sweethearts. They planned me. They got married when she was 18. We moved to California. I was born in California in Simi Valley. My mother and father were both very young and they were in love, but it wasn't enough for them to continue on in their marriage. They got involved with drugs and alcohol, and then before you know it, my father went one way and my mother had to step up and take care of me. So that went on for about 3 or 4 years. My mother actually brought me to Pennsylvania, where my grandparents live and had lived for a very long time. So, single mom, myself, and my grandparents. I was a happy child. Everybody wanted to love me and did love me. I was very fortunate for that. I was at that age where I didn't realize that I didn't have my father around because my grandfather kind of stepped in and filled those shoes.
That's good.
Yeah, I was very fortunate for that. He taught me how to play baseball, ride a bike, all that stuff. Some of my best memories are of my grandfather. So, yeah, that went on, and my mom had struggled with addiction. You know, she had went in and out of a few rehabs and centers like that, and I continued to stay with my grandparents. But my mom, she just she worked really hard, and she tried. She never gave up. You know, she had to work 2, 3 jobs, and that was just to get by. So we walked almost everywhere. I'd go to my grandparents on the weekends, and wherever we were living, my grandfather would make sure that he would be there every week, and then I'd be his for the weekend. And that went on and on and on for a number of years. At that point on, I guess I was like 14, 15, I actually moved quite, about 30 miles away, which might not seem like a lot, but for a child, whenever, you're used to having grandpa right down the street, and you can't just be at his house in 5 minutes,
Sure.
Time went on, and, we did our best, but I started getting older and adapting to new things, and grandpa wasn't as cool as he used to be, in the sense that, girls came into the picture. My buddies, they weren't at grandpa's house, and more distance came between us, and it was just me and my mom.
Were you a teenager when you felt this distance with your grandfather happen? Or like a preteen?
I would say a preteen, yeah.
Okay.
Because you see, from the time I was 5 until 12, 13 years old, I was always so close. I could be off by a year or so, but he was very involved for a very long time. And then my mom, she wanted to be happy, so she would get a boyfriend, and, it never really, I didn't receive it very well.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that mom needs to be happy too.
Right.
I was a little kid, so I wanted my grandpa, my grandma, and yeah.
Were you a happy teenager?
Not so much a teenager, no.
No, and why?
Well, like I said, I got really involved with baseball. I mean, baseball was like my life. I was good at it. I knew it. Everybody told me I was good at it. People, all my family would get together and let's watch Jeff play. And it was like my time to shine. And somewhere along the lines, I started smoking pot and marijuana. And it was like everything just took all my energy from any extracurricular activity. My desire, my interest, everything kind of faded.
Wow.
And it was like it became my life. I went on to continue to play baseball, but my coordination was off. I couldn't hit the ball anymore. My coaches started to realize there was a change in me. I would show up to practice late and expect to play. And then whenever he'd say you wouldn't play because of my choices, I'd get mad. I'd quit. And I go to a different team and start to play, and then right back into that same pattern because my attitude didn't change.
Yeah. Did you have a new crowd to hang out with, or were you kind of smoking pot on your own?
When I had started smoking pot, I'd reached out on a whole new level of friends.
Okay.
We moved a lot growing up.
Oh, okay.
I probably went to 5 or 6 elementary schools in one district, went to 3 or 4 middle schools, multiple high schools. Making friends wasn't foreign to me anymore. I had the ability to go into a crowd, brand new people, and just introduce myself and be completely content with who I was, whether you accepted me or not. And I think that was one of my cons. Like, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. And I think that was one of my things that I didn't realize how effective it was, because I was going out of my way to find people who were doing the same things I was doing, no matter where I went. At that point, it had progressed in a way that I had never imagined. By the time I had hit middle school, it had already started to progress. Around 9th grade, I rarely went to school. All my friends were much older than me, and they were either out of school, quit school, or were skipping school. So that's what I wanted to do. You know, I remember waking up in the morning and saying, I'm going to go to school today. I would wake up and know if I don't go to school today, there's going to be consequences. By the time I had gotten to high school, I had actually had to leave and go to a new high school. I'd gotten involved in selling drugs, making drugs, distributing drugs. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And all my friends were getting locked up or going to jail. And through all this point, my mom was completely aware of what was going on. I mean, there was no hiding it. You can't hide whenever the police are sitting outside your house. You can't hide it whenever you know that they've tapped your phone. You can't hide it when you know that they're watching you. My mom was aware, and I was finally given another opportunity. My grandfather kind of stepped in and said, listen, if you don't leave where you're at now and come with me and your grandma, a new destination and a clean start, you won't graduate. You might not only not graduate, but you could end up in jail for a very long time, or worse, you could die.
God was already protecting you, even back then, because you didn't know God back then, right?
No.
Okay, so no kind of exposure to him at all.
No, like I had been born and baptized as a baby, but I had really distanced myself from anything related to that at that time.
Yeah. So looking back at that time period, do you see how God had been protecting you, or?
I do now, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's really amazing to look back and see. Because there were so many times where I should have been in that car and I wasn't. Or I should have been with those guys and something intervened. You know, I see it now. Back then I didn't care to notice.
Right.
Several of my friends had been arrested. I had been arrested several times on different counts and occasions. But I had been exposed to violence, being in that lifestyle. Like I saw things that I would only see on television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you get involved in stuff like that, it's a dark world. And I didn't realize it because it was me trying to constantly move up in my fantasy world is really what it was. Because, you know, I had that attitude, you know, I'm not going to work three jobs just to barely get by. I didn't respect what my mom was doing. You know, my mom was working hard so that she could provide, but I found an easier way to do so with less work and better results in my eyes. But in doing that, there was a price to be paid that I didn't expect. I mean, I knew it was possible, but until I actually saw several of my friends, get arrested, a few of them died by overdose. When I look at it now, I think, wow, how did that not wake me up right then and there? But I wasn't there. I wasn't ready to take that step and say, well, I have a problem. I ended up graduating from that school, and it was like the happiest day of my life, but for all the wrong reasons. It was kind of like, and I told you so, like, I told you I'd graduate. But I didn't do it with straight A's either, though. I mean, I barely got by. I didn't do what I needed to do. I did enough to get by. And the girl that I'd been involved with had actually went to college. And whenever she had went to college, we continued our relationship, but I continued moving on with my life in the sense that I continued doing what I was doing. After she had went to college, I'd gotten a phone call, and I found out that she was pregnant. And me being a prideful 18-year-old, it's okay, I'm going to step up, and this is what I'm going to do. Now, you have to understand that at this point, I told everybody what they wanted to hear. I was good at that. So here she's pregnant, she's in college. She ended up dropping out of college, coming home. And my grandparents, they love me. I was like their baby boy, but, I come from a very old-fashioned background where you're going to get married. You're with this girl, you're having a child, you are going to get married, and you're going to step up. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah, we ended up getting married, and for all the wrong reasons. I was still living that lifestyle. I couldn't let go of myself. It was all about me. I did get a job, but I absolutely dreaded going to a real job. I still continued my lifestyle. My son was born September 30th, and it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. And looking back, like, I don't see how anything that powerful couldn't have woken me up. It did in a sense, but I feel like it did, and it made me feel like, wow, Jeff, you really need to be careful. You don't need to stop what you're doing, but you need to take it easy a little bit, because now you have a son. For me, drinking, I looked at it like, I have a job. I have a house, I have a car. Why can't I drink? That was a lie I told myself for a very long time. It had just progressed, and I'd turned into a monster, really. You couldn't rely on me, you couldn't depend on me. I would leave to run an errand, and I wouldn't come back for hours and sometimes days. I no longer enjoyed it. It was a chore. I realized that I'd become a slave to my body, pretty much. Like, I had to drink. It wasn't a, hey, let's go out, I want to have some fun. It wasn't that I wanted to. At that point, over the years of abuse, I had to.
It's like you needed it.
Yeah. Like, I would wake up, and I had to drink. It was back in 2006. I was coming home from a bar. Some people were waiting outside my apartment. I had been out. It was probably 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. But what I had walked into, I didn't expect. There's 3 men trying to break into my house.
Did you know them, or just 3 men trying to break into your
I
house?
recognized them,
Okay.
but I didn't know who they were.
Okay.
And I recognized them because they knew that I had drugs. They were trying to break into my house while I was at the bar because people knew me. They know, oh, it's Friday night, there's no way he's going to come home. I did come home, and a fight broke out, and then I ended up being rushed to the hospital. I'd been stabbed 3 times. I was asphyxiating in my right lung. Blood was rushing through. My right lung had been punctured. And then I just remember blacking out. I woke up in the hospital, and they had told me what happened, The police were there. My mom was there crying. My mom had come like 40 miles away. She had heard, you know, it was in the newspaper. And I'll never forget, out of all the friends that I had, not one of them called. I'm laying in a hospital bed under the impression that I could die. One blessing that came out of that situation was I had found out that I had multiple blood clots in my lung.
Wow.
And whenever my right lung had been punctured, they had found them. Now, before I left there, the doctor looked me in the eye and he said, Jeff, this medication, if you mix alcohol in this medication, it can kill you. Don't even think that it can kill you. It will kill you. And whenever I'd gotten out, I had a prescription to pain, and I knew I'd missed a week of work, and I was behind on everything. And my way of making money quickly was selling stuff that I shouldn't be selling. And one of those things was my prescription. And whenever I sold my pain medication, I thought to myself, what am I going to do now? I just went back to drinking, and I stopped taking the medication. That's what was important to me. I remember my mom had found the Lord, and she was praying, and she told me, I can't watch you die. You're killing yourself. I cannot watch you die. And I ended up going to live with her. I left the apartment and moved in with her. She set rules. She said, you will not bring alcohol into my home. I am sober. You will come with me and go to church. You will do this. You will do that. But I drank whenever I wasn't home. I didn't let her know that I was bringing alcohol inside. And then I ended up going out with some friends after work. I was supposed to meet somebody. Well, as I was waiting, I had said something. Somebody had recognized me, and it wasn't in good terms. Now, I was in a blackout, so I don't really remember what exactly had happened. All I know is I had woken up in the hospital again. I woke up in the hospital, but this time I was unrecognizable.
Wow.
I was jumped by multiple people. I know that now just from what the police told me, and they wouldn't even let me see myself in the mirror. My hands were tied down so that I couldn't put my hands to my face. Whenever they leaned me forward in the bed and I saw my face, I didn't think that I had a problem until then. My face was so swollen, Jess. My eyes, my nose, my cheeks, my ear. I didn't think I'd ever be the same. And I remember going home again and still wanting to drink. After all this, after everything, I needed help. I didn't know how to swallow my pride to ask for it. I was finally broken enough to be able to say out loud, I need help and I don't know what to do. So I went to a York County funding, and they sent me to a rehab. I remember a van actually came to pick me up, and it was like a send-off, and everyone was crying. And my son was there, and I remember saying goodbye to him. It felt awful, you know, but I knew that I had to do it. So I go to this rehab, and it sucked. It really sucked. I go through, and I meet this man. His name was Dan. I don't know his last name. I wish I did. But he was from Pittsburgh, and he had all these scars on his face, and he looked like somebody that I could talk to that might understand where I'm coming from. Because, see, I wasn't having fun, but he was. He was having fun. He was participating. He was reading. And whenever he wasn't reading his AA book and doing stuff to be involved, he was reading the Bible. And I remember going to him out of frustration saying, what is the matter with you? We're not on vacation here. No one's paying for us to be here. This sucks. Why are you happy? And he looked at me and he said, I'm happy because I have Jesus. And I kind of like didn't, well, for one, I didn't understand it. I'd been avoiding my mom when she'd tell me, I used to walk away from my mom when she would pray for me because I didn't want to hear it. But for some reason, this man had a shine that just drew me to him. He and I had kind of paired up, and I'll never forget, they had this program there that was for youth. The leaders, or the techs that worked there, would go around and ask certain people that they thought were able to share with these students why it's not cool to be doing what they're doing. And I remember I was one of the people that they asked. You know, after 2 weeks of sobriety, I felt like I could do anything. And I remember, like, Dan coaching me through it. He's like, you have to. He's like, this is a gift. He's like, you need to share this. Because at this point, I just thought, you know, I'm a loser. I can't even successfully drink alcohol. You know, like, that was my life, and it just come crashing down. So Dan kind of put it in my eyes in a different perspective and said, no, you can help people with this. So we went there, and I talked to these kids and showed them my scars. Now, my scars were still very visible. And I told them everything. And it was like my opportunity to give back for the first time in a very, very long time. I continued the program, and I came out of rehab with 30 days clean, and I was just on fire. I was on fire to go to meetings and tell people about everything that I had learned. Now I had this new perspective on God that I'd never had. But you see, what I didn't realize was that you need to pursue and continue that relationship. I hadn't grasped the idea of having a relationship quite yet. It was more like, okay, well, I know what Jesus did on the cross for me. That's awesome. So, you know, I'll just talk about that with other people and go to meetings, and it's cool. My pride started coming back, and it was, hey, I'm sober. I can do these things now. People started to want to be around me again. I wasn't this unpredictable guy. It was, hey, he's sober. Jeff's back. And I remember saying, you know, I can go to bars because I don't have to drink. I'll just play pool. And then it was, oh, I can still sell drugs because I won't use them. In desperation, I continued to drink. I called an ambulance, told them I was being crazy. It's really not funny, but at the time, like, I look back, it was a cry for help. And here the ambulance came and got me. Again, here I am, waking up in a hospital. Only this time it's different. My mom's standing in front of me, and she's saying, Jeff, you can't come home. We do not trust you. My mom had been praying for me while I was unconscious. And at the time that my mom was praying for me, a nurse had overheard her, pulled her aside, and said, listen, I noticed that you were praying. I might know something that can help your son. And in my mom's hand was this pamphlet. And I remember her handing it to me, and even like the artwork on it, it was just, I was like, what is this? I was like, what do you want me to go to another rehab or something? And she's like, no, this is a discipleship program called Freedom House. And it's in Gettysburg. And if you'll go there, it might save your life. That same day, I made a phone call. I talked to the leader. His name was Ed, and he told me to come down. That's when things started to change.
Next week on This Is My Story.
And I noticed this girl who was just, she was just perfect. I was really afraid that if I told her the truth, she'd say, no, this might not work out. But I told her the truth. She literally told me, well, that's who you used to be. And I had that grace that I'd never experienced from another human being. My pride kicked in, and I ended up drinking. After all that, I remember, wait a second, I have a relationship with Jesus now.
Through my relationship with God, I was able to have that grace with Him and love Him, and something in my heart just drew me to Him, no matter what.
To download a Freedom House brochure, visit www.freedomvalley.org/freedom-house-ministries.
I struggled with alcohol.
I used to use drugs, and my life was a wreck.
I was kind of going through a period of depression.
I had tried rehabs and that didn't work.
Since I've been at Freedom House,
It's been a life change, you know.
I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't in this program.
I'm overcoming a lot of obstacles in my life through faith, and it's just completely changed my entire perspective. If the Son sets you free,
you're free.
You are free indeed.
If the Son sets you free, you're free indeed.
Thank you for joining us today on This Is My Story. Blessings to you.
Love and blessings He'll provide all around the world. When you hear my story,